Well, the Hawks introduced Quin Snyder yesterday as their 15th head coach in franchise history, and he had a lot of different things to say. So we get ready for him to be on the sidelines tonight as they take on the Washington Wizards, Hawks and Wizards tonight. And we welcome into the program the current voice of the Utah Jazz, David Locke, is joining us. And you can follow David on his Twitter page at DLocke09. And David, thank you so much for being a part of the program. And this certainly came down very quickly, bringing Quin Snyder in. I mean, this was less than a week before we blew out the last coach and brought in a new one. So, what does Quin Snyder bring to the Hawks? What's the biggest strength that he brings to this Hawks team?
One of the most unique. That's bad English, so I'll start off right there. This is one of the unique brains of the world and the NBA. It would actually short-sight him if you call his brain unique for the NBA. This is a guy who got his JD law degree and his MBA at Duke. This is I've spent. That's nothing. Sees everything. It's an incredible. It's an incredible brain to be around on a daily basis. One of the fastest moving I've ever been around. His ability to take in information and, as I said, recall it is maybe second to none. It's really something else. So this is a truly unique person to be running your franchise.
First off, he was kind of the lead dog where he reached out to Quin Snyder, but he called him an offensive savant and a master of the pick and roll. Is that obviously the sense that you get, that this guy is more than just a good offensive coach? He is an offensive savant?
Enough to have been at every practice, most every practice for 7 years. He and I were also personally very close, so I'm fortunate enough to have done a multitude of dinners with him. I was at his house. How many dinners we did? I think it might have been well over 200. This understanding of spacing and angles. If you do a Google search, you can actually find I think a 16-page, basically dissertation that he wrote for some European basketball magazine on the pick and roll, probably some 15, 18 years ago now. Absolutely. And I think defensively as well, frankly. I think the best way to characterize Quin Snyder is, while in Utah, he had the number one offense one year and a number one defense in a different year. And he had rosters that changed in between all of those different things. And he always found a way to figure out how to play it. I think you win 5 to 6 games a year because he's your head coach.
Is that there's been, whether it's real or perceived, but there has been friction between Trae Young, who's, one of the superstar players in this league, and he's paid like a superstar player, one of, I guess, 11 supermax guys in the league. How much did Quin Snyder play into the relationship of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, star players for the Utah Jazz organization? How much did he play into that relationship in getting those guys better? Because that's obviously what we want with Trae Young, is for head coach and star player to be on the same page with one another.
To Quin, I was a benefactor of it. There's an authenticity. The most important characteristic to Quin Snyder in the world is authenticity. I apologize. I think you're getting that squeak in the background a little bit, and I'll do my best to keep. There's not a lot I can do about it, so I'm sure you're getting that squeak every now and then. There's authenticity is what matters to Quin Snyder. It matters to him in his dealings with Landry Fields and Kyle Korver. It's probably why he chose to come to Atlanta, is because he believed they were authentic. It matters to him in the dealings with the ownership, and it matters to him in dealing with his players. It's the single characteristic to Quin Snyder that matters more than anything else. And if Trae Young is willing to be authentic with Quin Snyder, they'll be fine. If Trae Young tries to fool Quin Snyder and play him a fool, that will not work. You cannot play Quin Snyder a fool.
When you look at this team, besides, I mean, obviously dealing with the star, are there other guys that you look at on this Hawks roster that could really benefit from a Quin Snyder? Kind of John Collins or a Clint Capella? Can some of these other players really benefit from what Quin Snyder brings to this team?
Be unfair to Nate, who I also happen to know well. This has been actually personally weird to me because I'm super close with Joe Prunty and his wife Laura. So this has been a weird little week to watch all this take place. Nate, when I was with Nate in Seattle, and this may be unfair because I haven't been with Nate since, it's a long time ago. When Nate in that period of time, his mantra was don't beef with the game. Don't beef with the game. Play hard, play right, don't beef with the game. It's incredibly important. If you don't do that, nothing else works. The next step on that is Quin Snyder is about as different than that. He obviously doesn't want you to beef with the game. But Quin Snyder's magic is his creativity in plays, his where position he's putting players in, maximizing each of his talents in a different way than the Nate I knew. Nate, that's a pretty bread and butter coach when I knew it, who wants you to play hard. And you saw when he took over for Lloyd Pierce the impact of that positively. So I do think that John Collins and Okongwu, Clint Capella will play mini Rudy Gobert role and probably really prosper. I think those guys will be put in unique situations and probably better situations than they have been put in before to thrive offensively. That might be a little unfair to Nate and the past staff. I mean it more as a compliment to what Quin does than a criticism of them.
So one of the comments that John Collins had when he did his press conference last week talking to the media was maybe Nate's message would be better for an older team, for a more veteran team. And I think the Hawks are the 6th youngest in age in the NBA. I think they're the 7th youngest in amount of years of experience for a team. Is Quin Snyder a guy that can, I guess, relate to the younger guys? Does he connect with younger players? Is that also one of his strengths, that he can relate and kind of communicate with those guys on a better basis?
He built it up fast. I mean, fast enough. You forget then Donovan and Rudy were young, and they came under Quin and developed under Quin. So that's completely what he does. I would quibble a little bit with what John Collins had to say. Nate took that young team to the Eastern Conference Finals, and if they didn't respond now, I don't think it's because he's not good with a young team. I think it might be on them. So I would quibble a little bit with John Collins there. I would say to Quin, back to where we started, that taking in information, incredible ability to do that manifests as well with people. He just knows where everyone is and how they're feeling. And if something's wrong, if you're off, it's uncanny. You can see it, on a practice court. There's 4 practice courts. They've all got guys on it. He'll be on one when then suddenly you can notice he picks something up that's happening, across the court in the furthest spot away. And he'll run over there, work with someone that their foot angle was wrong on that, and then run back over to another court where he noticed something else. He's doing the same thing with people. He's just aware. Like if your body language is off, you're not feeling right, he'll quickly grab it. He does it with broadcasters. He does it with coaches. He does it with players. He's one of the most remarkable humans I've ever been around in my lifetime.
Last question for you, Dave. I had Andy Larson on my show, on my radio show last night, and he brought up something very interesting, that he believed that Quin Snyder wants to definitely have a hand in personnel decisions and helping shape and form the roster. Now, we didn't hear that he was made president of basketball operations like Budenholzer, like Travis Schlenk, or anything like that. But do you get the sense that, Quin is also one of those guys that is a really hands-on guy, wants to shape, wants to formulate the roster, wants to have a voice and input into what happens, off the court as well?
Like he's he's working for Landry. I thought the most interesting part of the press conference is him talking about that he believed in Landry. He and Kyle are super close. Juliet and Amy, Quin's wife is Amy. Juliet is Kyle's wife, are very close. They used to take the kids up skiing together. So they're very close. He has to believe Landry in Landry, but he also has to believe that Landry will listen to him. Quin's not the easiest one to handle either because that brain is that incredible. So, Kyle's aware of that. Landry's going to have to become aware of it and be able to really communicate with Quin and make sure he feels represented in everything that's going on, or the marriage won't work.
David Locke is the voice of the Utah Jazz. David, thanks so much for being a part of the show. And listen, it's going to be interesting. 21 games to go for the Hawks. Let's see if they can make a move. So thanks so much for being a part of the show today.
Happened in the first 21 games. It will happen in the upcoming years. That will be a wildly successful tenure. The big loser in this deal is the San Antonio Spurs. Those draft picks won't be worth a lot when Quin Snyder's your head coach.
Thanks so much, David.